Hey everybody, Akeem Lawanson here, and up next is Tron Identity. Now joining us right now to tell us more about it is creative director Mike Bithell and producer over at Disney Pixar Games, Heidi Vargas. Mike, Heidi, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
It's great to be here.
Now, I'm so glad to have you all here because admittedly what we saw of Tron Identity wasn't much. It was, in fact, a teaser. So I want you all to kind of break down what the identity is of Tron Identity. First off, we saw the identity disc. And, of course, anyone that's a Tron fan knows how important that is in the Tron universe. It's used as a combat weapon. So what more can you tell us about Tron Identity based on what we saw?
Yeah, so it is definitely a combat weapon. I think the other side of it that we're exploring in this game, and I think is really interesting, is the identity nature of it. So this is a disc. Every program in the grid has their own disc. It stores their memories, their experiences, who they are. And we basically cast you as a detective in that world who's both interacting with the programs but also interacting with their discs and kind of working out what makes them tick, trying to figure out what's happened in this world. It's a kind of a unique way of telling a detective story in a sci-fi setting.
So based on that then, where would you say this story kind of like takes place within the overall timeline?
You want a deep lore? You want to go? You want to go into
you
the
already
full
know,
lore?
of course.
Let's do it. So specifically for r/Tron, this I'll do the lore dump. But basically, yeah, it's if you're a fan of Tron, you know that there were the ISOs, who were these programs that emerged, who weren't created directly by Flynn, but kind of came about. And there were these sentient programs, this next evolution. And in the events of Tron Legacy and Tron Uprising, they are persecuted by Clue, the villain. And our game basically takes place in a world where Flynn created an arc, where Flynn created a second grid for them to go to, promising that he'd come back. As we know from Legacy, though, he didn't. And Tron fans will also know that time moves much, much faster in that world. So we enter it hundreds, thousands of years after those events. What's the society and the culture that's evolved on that grid? And just an amazing kind of sci-fi storytelling opportunity, which we've been able to do thanks to the amazing kind of collaboration with Disney, who've just kind of allowed us to create this story, tell this story in this new world, and kind of expand on that amazing, rich heritage that Tron has, which has been amazing.
Yeah, now, I'm not sure how much you can actually reveal today, but I'm kind of curious, will we be seeing like any returning characters from the Tron lore? Obviously, there's going to be new characters. What can you tell us about some of the characters we'll see throughout the game?
Well, that's the cool opportunity here is because this is set in this world where time has passed, it's not so much that the characters you've seen in the current Tron stories are going to be present, but in this world, they're legends. They've created the backbone of this culture and society. So you're running into programs who've elevated the characters from previous stories to godlike status. You're running into characters who hate those characters. You're running around a world that's been entirely shaped by these stories beforehand. And that's where that richness and depth can come from. And we have this amazing cast of characters. Who have we got that we can talk about? Proxy. Proxy's awesome.
Proxy and Ada, they're very, very awesome, strong, powerful female characters, which I'm really excited to introduce. We've had other characters in the Tron franchise there she is. Yeah, she's awesome. We're just really excited to introduce these characters. It's a really diverse cast, and we're just happy to introduce the new story and the new characters to new fans.
Yeah, I'm digging the vibe. Right now we're just seeing an image of Proxy. I dig her overall aesthetic. What can you tell us about her role in Tron Identity? What is her identity?
So Proxy is one of several programs that have kind of started to live outside of the kind of established, with previous Tron stories, you'll know these are very kind of hierarchical structured worlds. So this is a character who's kind of starting to create her own kind of culture off to the side.
She's a rebel.
And she's here because she's heard about the power that's been unleashed by the events that you're uncovering. So you come into this world knowing that there's been a theft. A vault's been broken into, and she's one of the many characters who shows up looking to see what's going on and looking to see if there's an opportunity for her and her people to kind of benefit from that.
Now, I'm taking a look at some of the screenshots here. I'm kind of curious about the overall gameplay mechanics. Like, is this going to play out more along the lines as like a Actually, I'll let you tell me based on this, because I don't want to. Again, we didn't see much, so I want you to tell me, like, how will the overall story play out? Like, what's the gameplay like, or what are we gonna have, like action platform elements, or what type of elements will we see?
So it's kind of hybrid. It's a game, a puzzle game, where you can see this screen here. You're actually unpicking and picking apart an identity disc, which is something you see in Tron Legacy, and then that's interspersed with conversations, so kind of a visual novel. So those two things, people who've played Solitaire Conspiracy and Subsurface Circular from us will kind of start to recognize things they maybe remember from those games. We've kind of been able to pull that together. We kind of came to Disney talking about a puzzle game, and I think what was great about you and your team was you went to the story immediately and said you wanted to tell a great story.
Yeah, at Disney we consider ourselves storytellers, and we always want to work with the best teams. And Mike and his team have really created such a strong and powerful story that is really going to drive Tron Identity. Hopefully, take players to a new place and introduce a new side of Tron that we haven't seen before.
Now, speaking of the player, what role will we take on? Like, are we taking on an established character, maybe a character that we create, or what type of character are we taking on?
You'll be playing as Query, and he is hired to investigate the mysteries, right, that have occurred in this setting, the repository. So
he's a detective, but it's actually a really good example of the way that this kind of links to the story you've seen before. Is he's called a DOT, which is a disciple of Tron. So he's a detective who has come up in this history of the Tron character that people know and love, and how that's influenced this world, and how he reacts to that role, and whether that role makes sense for him in this world. So there's a lot of kind of space for us to play with those legacy characters and kind of do our own thing with them as well.
Yeah. No, there's also been, like, you both know this, I'm sure. There's been quite a few Tron video games in the past. I'm kind of curious, what sets this one apart from what we've seen in other Tron video games?
I think it's been a lot, because I think there is just an amazing opportunity with video games. Like, obviously, this is a world, we talk a lot on the team that this is a world created literally by a game designer, and that just kind of frees you up to do a lot of really interesting stuff and to kind of have a lot of cool mechanical quirks to it. So I think it definitely lends itself to games. In terms of what's different, I think here, obviously, the focus on story, the focus on character, and the focus on that investigative aspect, I think kind of sets it aside. It's maybe not the game people immediately expect from a Tron game, because we are kind of playing with those things. But I think it's hopefully a really cool introduction to this world, and a really cool way of kind of stepping into that space.
Yeah, we're really focused on sort of building this world and making sure that players are introduced to these new characters, and they're really, I think they're really gonna love it. So, yeah.
When can we expect to see more from Tron Identity? I mean, like, just talking to you two, I think it's like I'm excited for it from some of the elements that you all spoke to, and of course seeing more of these original characters that you all created specifically for this universe. So I want to know, when can we see more?
Very soon.
Very soon?
Very
Okay.
You'll notice I looked immediately. My producer says very soon, so that's why it's going to come.
Look, I totally get it. I wasn't expecting you to give us that exclusive, but I was, I gotta push for it every now and then.
I respect it.
I
respect it.
Now, are there like similarities between Tron Identity and other Bithell games, such as Thomas Was Alone or John Wick Hex?
I think yeah, there's definitely a thread between our games of story. Obviously, we've said that, but I think, and weirdly, Thomas Was Alone kind of is a bit Tron-like, in that it is about characters kind of inside a computer and kind of how those characters emerge and become themselves. I think it's, for us, it really does come down to us, and this is where I think it's similar to John Wick, where John Wick specifically was an opportunity to learn from the people who made those movies and kind of get all of that through the collaboration. I think Disney, it's a similar thing. When we're picking the projects we want to work on, as a team, we're looking for collaborations where we can learn, where we can pick up skills, where we can work with people that we wouldn't get to work with before. It's about making something that's more than the sum of the parts. We could and we have done kind of sci-fi stories. We've even done detective stories before. But I think what this offers as an opportunity is to bring in all of this amazing story that's in the franchise, but also the expertise of Heidi and her team. You know, the amazing artists and writers and designers and audio guys and everything, just amazingly talented, skilled people who we can kind of collaborate with and learn from.
Yeah, and for us, like Bissell, they're experts and they're just fans of Tron in general. We're both fans, right? Both of our teams, we work really well together, and it's just such a collaborative and creative process, and it's just been really fun just trying to make the best game possible.
I'm going to be honest, like one of the highlights, obviously we're announcing this game, it's all very exciting, but the highlight for me is that I get to afterwards go back and I get to move all of the Tron action figures off my desk and onto the shelf behind me, because I'm constantly kind of hiding how much Tron paraphernalia I'm surrounded with all the time. So I'm looking forward to kind of retheming my office to kind of show off all my vintage Tron toys that I've got. But yeah, it's amazing for us. There are a lot of people on the team who've been fans of Tron since they were kids, myself included. I'm a massive Disney fan in general. So yeah, just kind of getting that insight, getting that just stuff like getting to go to the Disney kind of archives and look at all of those resources. Lots and lots of pictures of guys dressed in 2010 jeans holding up like motorcycle jackets and stuff. So we can go, okay, that's exactly how that texture looks, you know. So it's just been like, it's just a nerd's kind of paradise.
Yeah. Oh, and Flynn's Arcade. We went to Flynn's Arcade.
We did go to Flynn's Arcade, yes, which is now a nice restaurant. That was good. Yes.
It was very pleasant.
I'm trying to keep the nerd inside of me bottled up right now so that I don't nerd out right now. But it definitely sounds like a match made in heaven, Disney heaven, that you all were able to kind of merge. And honestly, I want to thank you.
It's called Magic Kingdom, by the way. It's
Magic
Disney
Kingdom.
Yeah, it's Disney Magic Kingdom. Yeah.
All right. Excuse me. Actually, you just gave me an actually moment there.
I did.
Mike, Heidi, I want to thank you both again for sharing with us a little bit more about Tron Identity. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop on my old light cycle again and zoom on out of here. Now, let's take one more look at that teaser.